Hello everyone, welcome to Chess Optics, man, a place where we look at chess and hopefully you'll see something that we see or don't see that'll help you improve your game. We always hope that we can give you something to make your chess be the best. What I want to talk about today is not the position on the board at first, but I want to talk about a question that I get from a lot of my friends. And the question is, why is chess so difficult? I hear this a lot. So, in my attempts to answer this question, fix this position up, I believe that chess is not as difficult as people think it is at first sight. I mean, you have a lot of pieces on the board. If you're not familiar with, the terrain, you have 32 pieces, 64 squares, yada, yada. However, chess is about pattern recognition, and I firmly believe that if you can grasp a few general concepts and patterns about the game, that it won't be as difficult as it first may seem. And this position is a clear indication of that. So, what I would like to show you here is a mate in 3. This position was introduced to me by a friend, pretty much kind of like a trainer, but I've never had a coach, so I wouldn't say he was a trainer. So what we have here is a stalemated king. Now, that's an idea in chess. A stalemated king means that this king cannot go anywhere. It can't take the pawn can't take the knight because the bishop is on h1, and the king cannot move to b8 because the knight is on h6. That's a key piece of information, because instinctively, everyone who I've ever showed this position to, their first move is always, seems to me anyway, knight to c7 check. The king moves, the knight goes somewhere, let's say here. The king moves back, the knight tries this, and you see we're not getting anywhere. We're not making progress. It's mate in 3, you've already made, more than 3 moves. So, this is not obvious to anyone who's never seen this before, but what I wanted to use this position to demonstrate is that if you're not familiar with the pattern, you shouldn't let it make you feel like the subject matter is difficult. This game is about data. When I very first saw this position, I wasn't able to solve it myself immediately. And I think a lot of people have had the same situation. So in understanding what stalemate is, it relates to a concept in chess called Zugzwang. Zugzwang means you have no move, right? Any move that you make is a bad move. So what we want to do is put the black king in a form of Zugzwang so that he can only make one move, and that move leads to his demise. So understanding the Zugzwang concept, we understand that moves like king to c8, which only delivers stalemate, definitely don't fall into the category of what we're looking for. The pawn can't move, the king can't move, and it's stalemate, nothing will happen, right? Not only that, any king move delivers the same result. If you move away, it's still stalemate. The king can't go to b8. The pawn cannot capture on a6. So chess is about concepts, pattern recognition. When you look at the board, you don't see the concept. You see the pattern, and then you remember the concept that relates to the pattern. But if you have never, ever seen the pattern and you don't know the concept, you'll rely on instinct. And instinct a lot of times is what makes people feel like chess is difficult, because they rely on their instincts and what feels to them like it's something that should work, because instinctively this just feels right, but it's still wrong and you don't get the results that you want. So you say, this is difficult, I can't do it. But chess is about data. It's not about one person being better than the other, or this guy is so much better than me. No. He has the data and he knows how to use it. Or he has the data and you know how to use the same data that he has a little bit better. So you get results that the other he or she, I know there's some females out there watching, that they may not be able to produce the same results that you have with the same exact position in front of them. That does not speak to the person, That just speaks to the data that they have. Chess is three things. It's a game, it's an art, and it's a science. The science part is what makes this game so interesting, because you could start learning on day 1, and on day 365, you could be a much stronger player if you incorporate the data into your understanding of the game. So how does this work with this position? Well, when you're looking at a position like this, the first thing I would want to know is how many options do I have that don't work, so we can eliminate, by a process of elimination, everything that we know we're not going to do. So we know we're not going to move the king, right, at all. That'll give us a stalemate. The king has how many options to move? It can go to e7, d7, c7, c8, and e8. So that's 3, 4, 5 moves that we're not making. We don't need to look at the king. Let's eliminate that. So let's start with the next easiest piece, the bishop. We're not going to g2. We're not going to f3. We're not going to e4. We're not going to d5. Maybe we're going to c6, but we'll get to that later. So let's look at the knight. 1, 2, 3, 4 options that the knight has to move. b4, c5, c7, and b8. We try all of these moves and we see that none of them give us mate in 3. This doesn't give us mate in 3. We looked at that already. This doesn't give us mate in 3, simply because if you push this pawn, right, my next move as white, even if I were to capture this, I move the king to a7, and guess what? There is no checkmate afterwards. Put the knight back. So we're starting to see that the knight moves don't work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We eliminated the king already. So that leaves us with 1 to move. And this is the algorithm approach of solving, which I'm pretty sure you probably won't do for every position, but it works here. And sometimes you have to rely on that because you just don't know what it is that needs to be done. And the pattern may be, the pattern that you see on the board may be unfamiliar to you, so you have to try moves like this. This move displays Zugzwang in all its glory. White can only do one thing, and that thing is very bad. Black can only do one thing, and that thing is very bad. That is, pawn on b7 takes the bishop on c6, right? So now what do we have here? We have 2 pieces in the black camp that can move. So we can restrict the black mobility by bringing the king to c8, which leaves black with only one move, pawn to c5. And the next move is checkmate by white when the knight comes over to c7. What this does is displays a checkmate after a bishop sacrifice, but the king cannot move because the other king blocks it to be able to come from coming out on b8 and b7, b8 and b7, excuse me. And this is checkmate. Why did I show you that position in relationship to the topic that I opened with, why is chess so difficult? Because for a beginner or someone who's never seen this, it will probably be virtually impossible for them to solve this just by looking at it. And it can have someone think that, oh my goodness, I'm done with chess. This is crazy. How would I ever figure that out? You wouldn't figure it out unless you've been studying and you've seen a familiar pattern like this, right? There's many patterns which the king gets mated on the edge of the board. And some of these patterns will allow alarm bells to go off in your psyche, in your subconscious, and you'll start to seek out moves that normally you wouldn't instinctively make. That is when you know you are on the road to understanding chess a little bit better. When you recognize your instincts, but you recognize that they are not as reliable as once thought, once you understand the language of the game. Concepts such as Zugzwang, stalemate, giving the move to the opponent, such as this, which becomes the only move that they can make. But it's a move that causes their defeat. And with that lesson, ladies and gentlemen, I hope your chess becomes the best and that you learn something from Chess Optics today. Have a nice day. And may you like and subscribe below. And also comment. I'll respond. Later.